actually went forth and ended his life and committed suicide, then he would have ruined his own life, his own hereafter, and he would have also ruined the opportunity to do more good deeds for his mother. And so here Ziyara decided to be his mom's last good deed, because he gives her now a source of everlasting, blessings and good deeds, because he can give charity on her behalf, he can supplicate for her, he can spread knowledge in her name. Now he can do things for her. And that's something that we have to realize, that when we're alive and the beloved ones, people that lived for us when they were alive, leave this world, now it's our turn to live for them and to do things that will benefit them in that situation. And also understand this, that Allah knows your pain and Allah knows what you're going through. And if you seek reward for that pain and that patience, the reward that you would get in return is better than having that beloved one with you. And that's why Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu, when his father Al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, passed away, a Bedouin came to him and he said, خَيْرٌ مِنَ الْعَبَّاسِ أَجْرُكَ بَعْدَ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ مِنْكَ لِلْعَبَّاسِ. That the reward that Allah will give you for your patience as you grieve your father is greater than having him with you. And Allah is better than you for your father.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah show. Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is now time to discuss our topic of the day, which is human rights violations in Lamu. Now get this, 48. This is the number of police officers who have been arrested over various crimes in the last 5 weeks. 120, the number of police and men and women in uniform who've been sacked from gross misconduct over the last year. Now, we're going to move to Lamu because this is the story of the day, and we are going to play a video, and I'd like to warn our viewers that the pictures are graphic and may be disturbing. Now in Lamu, Pate to be specific, we are seeing an incident where, in Lamu, Pate to be specific, the police have been beating up women and children during the search for a missing officer in Lamu who was found dead. And the question of the day is, why are our police officers going rogue, and is it too late for change? Now in studio with me I have Jacob Opara, who's from a local NGO, and have Victor Karaoke, who's an advocate who's going to make us understand this better and get the reasons behind it, and inshallah find possible solutions. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
You guys are well?
Yeah.
Now let us start with the National Police Service motto. It states that service with dignity. But when we see such incidences like what we've seen in Lamu, it really brings the question, is the dignity really there? Let's start with you.
Okay, good morning, viewers. I think the dignity has slowly just slipped off the fingers of the police service. Mm-hmm. And what you're seeing, I think, is the Constitution allowed us to transform the service from police force to a service. But what the police are doing is largely getting rogue, and I think it's a worrying trend. Mm-hmm. And targeting young people, targeting people that are very innocent, who don't pose any threat, who are not armed. And the kind of violence that is meted against them is not measurable.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, their core duty is to maintain law and order. Mm-hmm. But in recent times, what we have heard is that we have some elements in the police service who are giving the police a bad name. And you have seen incidents where one of them is probably injured or attacked. Then they go on a revenge mission whereby they even attack innocent children, women, and men. And at the end of the day, we end up with people suffering various injuries or even death. And I think it's the high time that the government takes steps to ensure that those who are giving the police service a bad name are weeded out from the service.
Okay, Jacob, we saw whatever happened in Lamu and its relation to a police officer who was murdered, and as Victor had said, the revenge mission that they came to do, was it really necessary to go to the extent of battering people, beating them badly? We saw from the video, and we saw pregnant women who are being, and children who are being beaten. Some of them who are even innocent, and they have no idea what is going on about this.
In my view, I think there is no justifiable reason why this kind of violence will be meted against the general public. And like you've seen in the video, the people that are being attacked are very young children, like you said, pregnant women. People will expect will not pose a threat, like a direct threat to for this kind of violence meted against them. And the organization I work with, Muslims for Human Rights, is adversely concerned with this. And because the way the law has, we are just as good as how much you respect the law. The law requires that if someone is considered to have committed a crime, they're supposed to be arrested and then processed. So it's unfortunate. I mean, loss of life, whether for police or a civilian, is tragic. And we regret the loss of the policeman the life of the policeman who was killed. But our expectation will be that then the police, they have the intelligence community and how they conduct the investigations. If they feel that people in Pate, certain people in Lamu are responsible for that, the due process will require that they get arrested and then they're processed. But this idea of just summarily, punishing an entire livelihoods, just running into homes and beating people. And we have officers on the ground now, and the kinds of information that you can't even believe. People are being asked to undress, and then they're just whipped. People are being told, produce this gun, and they say, which gun? Some of the people even are not aware that those was an incident involving the policeman.
Okay.
And it's very unfortunate, yeah.
Victor, have we lost the sense of direction as far as law is concerned?
I think there is a problem in terms of enforcement, because if we were to follow the law to the letter, then we'll not be having this kind of incidents. Because as my brother has said, if a crime has been committed, there is a process that is to be followed. You investigate, you arrest the perpetrators of the crime, and then you take them to court. So this business of going to a village and attacking everybody and brutally beating them up, either to give information as to who committed a certain offense, or trying to recover lost government property, I think that is very wrong. There is need to ensure that due process is followed. And the problem with this kind of reaction is that it alienates the members of the public from the police. So you have a situation whereby the members of the public will not be willing to cooperate with the police. And therefore, the police will not be in a position to execute their mandate, because they will have lost the confidence in the public. So I think there is need that the police service, through the Inspector General, they need to come up with a method of dealing with this kind of incidents, so that the police does not get a bad name, and also the fight against crime is successful.
Okay. Yes. Jacob, when you see such brutality, there's this general feeling that a common mwananchi might have that, I'm not safe. When I see a policeman, as much as they are the protectors of the law, but after seeing such a video, no hearing of such brutality, are we really safe as the common mwananchis?
I don't think that is the impression we get as a common mwananchi. We don't feel safe, because sometimes you don't have control of when crime will happen. Sometimes it happens, you have no idea. But if the picture we're getting from some of these things that are happening, not just in Lamu, even across the country, you're seeing that elements of police officers are themselves perpetrating crime. So as a common mwananchi, I wouldn't feel safe, because you don't know when they will show up and just say, you know, they don't even have warrants of arrest, they don't follow any due process, and just brutalize you. So it's a very worrying trend, I think, and I've seen the leadership of the police service, the DPP, and also I think the DCI have pronounced themselves on social media regarding rogue police officers. And I think it's important that we find a way to sort of pressurize them to actually actualize some of these things they're saying, because they're also in admission that there are certain elements in the police service that are just rogue, that are just breaking the law and with a lot of impunity. Yeah. And I think it's important that now there's a deliberate attempt at bringing these people to book, because what this continues to do is, like you said, it alienates the general public with partnership with police, and especially like the coastal counties where we work from. One of the challenges that is there is the issue of radicalization. And previously, radicalization had been thought to be religiously instigated. But what studies have been done, and you realize that with these kinds of brutalization of the community, then people just grow this resentment against police, you know, so that they also in their small ways try to want to fight back, you know, and that escalates this violence, and I don't think it's helping our society. I don't think it's helping respect to human rights, and it's something that you should be worried, and those that are responsible have to act. I think it's important for them to act to bring this partnership. You know, the government we have been working towards the issue of community policing. Yeah. But now, you know, if there's this continuous aggression against the public, how then can they cooperate with the police service?
Okay, Victor, the question of the common mwananchi's safety, when we see such things happening, is there a general feeling that passes through someone's mind that the safety of the common mwananchi is not being prioritized as far as meting out these criminals is concerned?
Yes, you know, basically the general public is supposed to have confidence in the police, because they are the ones who are supposed to protect the members of the public. But when they turn out to be the criminals themselves, then it means that the members of the public have nowhere to run to. And going to this particular case of Lamu, remember, Lamu has been one of the places where we have had so many of these challenges. As early as March this year, the Interior CS, the DPP and the DCI visited that county, and they went and listened to the various grievances that the members of the public were having. And one of the issues that came up very strongly is that the police have not been very friendly to the members of the public. Now, barely 6 months later, with this kind of thing happening, then of course the members of the public will even have doubts as to whether the leadership of the police or the ministry involved, the DPP or the DCI, whether the assurances they gave, whether they are being heeded to. So it's important that these leaders of the various agencies make sure that the members of the public are assured that these police officers are there to protect these members and not to brutalize them.
Okay. Yes. Jacob, let's talk about the curfews that were induced earlier on in Lamu, as far when we had the incidences of extrajudicial killings and terrorism rising up. The curfews that were induced, they brought about a very huge economic paralysis. And till date, there's that feeling that people have not recovered from it. And is there really a chance for us to recover from that? Because now you're telling someone, past 6, I don't want you outside. So for that person who does his business from that time, where do they go to?
It's true, yeah, but I think Lamu was largely Lamu community was very affected by the curfew. Actually, the curfew was in place for close to a decade. You know. And what basically means, you know, the Lamu community is largely a fishing community. So people have to go and fish. And when you talk to Lamu people, they go to fish at night. And so they have been told by 6 you cannot be on the streets, and so that has largely affected communities in Lamu. And you see, and I think it's good to appreciate that, you know, when issues like curfews, I think they are protected in law. Like there are times when they can be, government can choose to impose them, but they have to be measured. They have to be measured, and it's important to be responsive to the needs of the people on the ground. So in Lamu, the impact it had was now people could not be able to sustain their livelihoods. People now didn't have anywhere else to go. People got into criminal activities because they have to find other ways of survival. So I think it was an unfortunate event, and I think the rallying call activists or human rights defenders have for government is that it's their mandate to protect. It's their mandate to make some of these decisions, and sometimes we may not have the information they have that is given. But it's important for it to be coordinated, for it to be, the new constitution has largely placed a lot of responsibility on public participation. That is just engaging the people with whom you're serving to come to a consensus. And I think most of these security issues, if they are managed from that level of partnership with communities, we stand a better chance of having sustainable communities, having peaceful communities. But if it's this just blanket curfews, blanket, just descending on a village and just beating everyone up because a crime has been committed, I think it worsens. It doesn't help, and it affects communities. It marginalizes communities, and I think the level of apathy that eventually people have is really goes down, and it's unfortunate.
All right. Now those are the thoughts there of Victor, who is representing a local NGO in Mombasa. Now that brings us to the end of the first segment, but when we come back we will be discussing what better measures could the police have used instead of curfews. I'm still with Victor and Jacob here from the local NGO. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Wake up to exciting mornings every day. Active Jumatatu with Muhammad Obura. Tech Tuesday with Yusuf Farah. Wednesday, the special edition Business Chat with Ibtisam Jamal. All about your health on Healthy Thursdays with Mariam Wacharo. Aisha Khan with thorny pertinent issues every Friday on the Round Table. Fresh discussions, direct probe in Sabah Show, only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Welcome back to the round table. Now we are still with Jacob Opara from Muhuri, the local NGO, and Victor Kariuki, who is an advocate. Now, before the break, we had this question. Could there have been better options, or could there have been better things that would have been done instead of using curfews as far as curbing a problem is concerned in party? Victor.
Okay, the coastal region has its unique challenges. And looking at Lamu specifically, it has had challenges because of its proximity to our neighboring country, that is Somalia, which has had instability and these terrorism issues. So with those kind of challenges, then it poses some security concerns as well. And of course, the curfews are legal in terms of the minister can give the curfews depending on the security challenges that are at a particular place. Now, what is important is the balancing act, because of course there has to be some challenges in terms of the livelihoods of the people who are affected. Like my brother had said, this is a place that relies mostly on fishing, and the economic activities that they do are normally during evening times. Well, with these people being denied the chance to go and do legal business, some of them are forced to now turn to crime. What is important, I think, in my view, is that the government needs to engage the local community. And by engaging the local community, they can have the issues of sharing of information. Like in this particular case that we are having from the media reports, it is members of the public who tipped off the police as to where this slain officer was. And instead of being appreciated, then they are brutalized. So I think what is important is to build confidence between the security agencies and the members of the public, allow community policing to work, and by engaging in public participation in terms of sharing information, working closely between the security agencies and the local community would be a better solution as opposed to more harsh measures like curfews and other measures. So I think it will be better to have a more interactive approach.
Okay, Jacob, is Lamu, or has Lamu been neglected because of high insecurity and also the high rise in drug and substance abuse?
Well, I wouldn't say neglected, although sometimes the impression appears like that. And especially because of devolution. Devolution has really helped raise the profile of communities in Lamu. And at least there's a good level of awareness on different issues. And also I also think I have to appreciate the working of human rights organizations in Lamu.
Yeah.
Trying to bring to the fore some of these challenges that people in Lamu face with regard to security issues. And like you said, that proximity between Lamu and Somali, it presents a lot of challenges in themselves. So I wouldn't say that that Lamu has been sort of forgotten, but because of its geographical location, its contextual being in itself creates challenges that are a bit unique to Lamu, so that it might appear as though it's been forgotten. But I think the bigger issue for me, in my view, is just the level of the level of engagement that government agencies have, especially on issue of insecurity, that then just alienates communities completely. It pushes them to one end.
But we understand that drugs are being sold openly.
Yes.
So who's playing the foul card? I mean, in other places, if you sell drugs openly, the next thing you know, you're in the back of a van heading to a police station. But in a place like Lamu, people are doing it openly.
Yes, and of course that's another very complex. The challenge of drugs, just in the larger coastal region, is also complex. It's difficult to say, to point one finger at an individual or at a person, but in my view, I think it's a build up of different moving parts that contribute to this. Because now you see, when people feel marginalized, when people feel targeted, when people feel their livelihood, they don't have options for their livelihood. They don't have any motivation in life, and there is a lot of so what I'm looking for, a lot of resigning. People are just resigned to their situation. So that when you find people, for instance, engaging in drugs, they don't really care, because someone has been pushed to the limit. So and of course that also so from that perspective, then the people, especially young people, get involved in drugs a lot, and so that is on one side. On the community side, I would say it's the level of hopelessness that has come from this. Being pushed so much. But now on the other side, if of course dealing with drugs is a crime in Kenya, so if there's drug dealing in a county or in a place that has police officers, and the people just do it openly, then of course that also castigates the police also in bad light. So it's a balance. There's I think places where there's challenges with how the police engage these criminal activities, the allegations that there are some rogue police officers also involved in these crimes. So then it becomes difficult to trace it out. I think the bigger way to go about it is just to find this collaboration. If you're able to bring communities and security agencies together, intelligence sharing, it will be easier to manage some of these challenges.
Okay, Victor, do you feel like the police have played their role to the latter as far as matters security and drugs and substance abuse is concerned in Lamu?
Okay, drug trafficking is a very complex crime, and as you have seen in the past, it's one of those crimes that is very difficult to eradicate. And the security agencies rely mostly on information shared by people in the local communities. So they require to work together with the members of the local communities to be able to know who are the people who are trafficking in drugs. So when there is no collaboration between the security agencies and the people who might be having information, then the crime becomes very difficult to eradicate. The coastal region has had challenges with drug trafficking over the years, and one of the challenges that has been there is this is a crime that involves very secretive operatives, and therefore the security agencies really need to work hand in hand with people in the local community to ensure that this crime is eradicated.
On the same, Victor, yes. Pate is one of the largest islands in Lamu. Actually, it is the largest, but the presence of the police there is very low compared to the population. Why is this so? Because, I mean, one would imagine the bigger the geographical region, the more the presence of the men and women in uniform.
Okay, the last statistics that I heard about, we have about 70,000 police officers in the country. I think they might have gone up, but the challenges that are there are with the manpower. So you cannot have all the police everywhere. But with this particular place, you see it's far off in terms of its geographical location. And well, I think it's important that depending on the resources, you know, the police are distributed depending on the challenges that are unique to a particular place. Where there is high crime, then of course you expect the police to be posted to such a place in high numbers. So for this particular area, with the kind of challenges that have been there from the neighboring country, the issues of terrorism and drugs, I think it's the high time that the police service considers increasing the number of police officers in the region. And of course, they also need to ensure that they strike a good rapport with the members of the public, because it makes their work even more difficult. If they are not collaborating with the local wananchi, then even if you get so many officers in the area, they will not be in a position to execute their mandate properly. Yes.
Jacob, let's talk about IPOA and their role as far as investigating rogue policemen is concerned. Have they done their job to the latter?
Well, I mean, I will say they have done some work, but I think it's still largely insufficient. We have worked with IPOA for quite some interesting cases in the coastal region. We've had some successful cases with IPOA in Malindi and other parts in Mombasa. But I think there's still room for improvement. There's still room for IPOA to be a bit more felt, if I may use that word, on the ground, because there's a lot of injustice being done in the name of maintaining the law. And I think it's also good to note that it's not like the entire police is deliberately doing this. I think they're just people, a section of people within the police service that are just rogue, that are just committing criminal acts out of, I will say, impunity. Yes, someone just feels that he has the power, so he can do things. And so there's, I think there's room for IPOA to do more, especially to especially like case in Lamu. These are obvious. They are all over the news. They actually human rights violations against the public, and it's important for IPOA to pronounce itself on these matters, not just to work in the background, because one of the ways also of trying to ward off this rotting culture in the police service is for these agencies established to protect the public to talk about it. So I would have expected by now. Of course, I know the way the IPOA works also is a bit different, but I think one of the ways I would suggest is for them to be more vocal about these violations. So in my assessment, they have done some work, is better, but I think there's still room for improvement for IPOA.
Okay, this is to you, Victor. The number of cases that have been filed to IPOA for investigation and the things that have actually tangibly done, like in matters of investigations and actually bringing rogue policemen to book. Is it proportionate, or the numbers, the difference in the number of what they've done and the number of the things that they have on their table? Does it make sense?
Well, we will have to appreciate that IPOA is a relatively new agency because it came after the new constitution. So they are still growing in terms of their capacity and other issues. Well, they still have challenges with the work that they are doing. Now, one of the issues that informed the bringing forth of this institution was the fact that most of the people who are violating people's rights in terms of torture and degrading treatment were the police officers. And you would have challenges with them investigating one of their own. And that's why we came up with this kind of institution. There is also, under the National Police Service Act, there is an internal affairs directorate where if somebody has issues with the police, you can go and complain there. So it complements IPOA. So what maybe IPOA needs to do is to increase its reach to members of the public. There are many people who do not know about their role. They need to be more vocal in terms of the cases that they're investigating. They need to give more information to members so that when there are these violations, then members of the public are able to share that information with them. And that way, I think we can have some of these challenges taken down.
Okay,
or reduced.
that take there from Victor brings us to our second break. But when we come back, we have discussed the problems, but now when we come back, the solutions and the way forward as far as this case is concerned. Don't go too far.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Ampenda sana Mtume sallam hata kushinda watoto wake. Na Abdul Muttalib, Mtume Muhammad sallam alikuwa ni mjukuu wake. Abu Talib na babake Mtume sallam dimba ndugu, tumbo moja, mama moja, baba moja. Baada ya miaka miwili Abdul Muttalib kufa, alipofika miaka 10 wakaamua kufunga safari kwenda Sham, kwenda kufanya biashara. Faqala rahib, huyu mtoto akifika akionekana dola ya Rum watamuua. Akaamua kurudi kuweza kuishi katika mji wa Makka kwa mara nyingine.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Welcome back to the last segment of our discussion today, that is human rights violations. And before we went on the break, we wanted to know the way forward. Now, Jacob, before the break we were discussing, you mentioned something about community policing. Kindly expound on that.
Okay, so I think community policing is a structure of if I may put it that way, of maintaining security that is in our laws. that is encouraging police to collaborate with the public to ensure that we have peaceful communities. And this concept is largely based on trust. Trust between the police and the general public, such that now people can feel confident that they can share information with the police. So then the police in return will use the information to protect them and then make sure that there is no criminal activities, there are no criminal activities happening in the community. And so that for that to work, there has to be one trust between the public and the police, and there have to be like two-way collaboration kind of channel. And that means that then if the public feels aggrieved constantly by what we've mentioned before, this constant aggression from the police, then that trust is not there. Another challenge that community policing faces then is that there are times, like in the case of Lamu, people volunteer the information. There's this criminal activity that has happened somewhere. And then when the police come, they target the informers, saying, okay, since you gave this information, you must know something more. And then they get harassed. So people, there's our culture, I think this concept is still growing and is still struggling. But I think it's a good model that you can use for ensuring peace in our communities. But there has to be trust. There has to be an effort from the police to be, like the way you say, you cannot command trust. You earn trust. You must act in a way that people then eventually will trust you.
Okay, so Victor, from an advocate's point of view, there's this general feeling that Kenyans don't really know their rights, or maybe we're ignorant towards knowing our rights, or the police don't know their rights and our rights as well, because I believe before arresting somebody, you have to tell them the reason for arrest, you have to read them their rights, and then you arrest them. But in the case of the chilling confessions we saw the day before yesterday about the lawyer, his client, and the driver who were killed, they were just roughly arrested, taken. So how important is it that we know our rights as far as being citizens and the police is concerned?
Yeah, if you look at our constitution, the Bill of Rights is one of the biggest chapters, and the reason behind that is, there had been violation of rights from time immemorial, and there was need to curtail that kind of incident. So in this particular case, we have had a lot of people are now more knowledgeable in terms of what their rights are. There has been access to information as opposed to what was there before. But it's not like everybody has got this information. So there's need to have more public information about the rights that people are supposed to enjoy. Now, on the issue of how the police officers are supposed to behave, there is sufficient legislation to that effect. If you look at the National Police Service Act, if you look at the Constitution, before somebody is arrested, they are supposed to be informed. If you look at the Constitution, it gives the rights of arrested persons, the process that you are supposed to be taken through. After you are arrested, you are supposed to be informed of the reason for the arrest. And then from there, instead of being brutalized or being subjected to inhuman treatment, you are supposed to be taken to the police station. If you have any offenses that you are supposed to face, you are taken to court. And then you are charged, and then you are processed through the court. If you are found guilty, you are either imprisoned or fined. So that is the way systems are supposed to work. And with the kind of challenges that were there with the police, we had a certain period in the past where we had vetting. And one is left to wonder whether the vetting process really worked, because one of the reasons why we are having vetting is to weed out those elements in the police service who are giving the service a bad name. But in recent times, you have seen that we have even had more aggression in terms of police officers brutalizing members of the public, even some of them involving themselves in criminal activities. So I think there is need to work more towards ensuring that the people who are supposed to maintain law and order behave in a way that gives confidence to the members of the public to collaborate with them. On the issue of community policing, that model is based on the fact that members of the public are supposed to assist the police to assist them back. So the moment the police are the ones who are brutalizing the members of the public, they are the ones who are involving themselves in crimes, and of course they have the power because they have firearms and all that kind of stuff, then the members of the public lose confidence and they feel that now if the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones who are committing crimes, they are the ones who are torturing us, then of course we have a breakdown in terms of the security.
Yeah, speaking of the relationship between the policeman and the common mwananchi, when the person you're supposed to report to, you report to them and then they come to you because you're like an informer or something, they decide to rain down on you. What does this mean for the person who has an issue that is burning and they want to report it? Where do they go and report this matter? Because they're imagining, why would I inform the police if the police will come and just rain down on me because they believe I know something? Victor.
True, yeah, and that is one of the complex challenges with that. In our organization, we have a program we call among our programming when we engage security agencies. I say this because there are times the impression created is that human rights organizations are against the police. They're always bashing the police. But no, I think we are just against violations of human rights. Yeah. So one of our programming activities we engage in is we train police officers on what is called human rights-based approach to policing. So this is why we encourage them, just like what he said, when you arrest someone, they have rights. Let them know those rights. Do it in a humane way, Especially, and largely most Kenyans, even those who commit criminal activities, largely they are not violent. So when you go to arrest someone who has done a mistake or a crime, you do it in a humane way. So that at the center of your operations is respect to human rights. That is a fundamental equalizer of our democracy. That all of us, regardless of our status, regardless of the positions you hold or the powers we have, we are respectful to other people's rights. So I think if that, and we train police officers on that, we are thankful for different counties county security leadership that have allowed us to engage police officers on training them on human rights-based approach to policing, where it simply says that you do your mandate, but do it in reverence of the law. When you go to arrest someone, you have a warrant, have cause, let them know their rights. This dramatization of security keeping I don't think it helps. It hurts more than it helps. And it's important to encourage police, especially those who are good-willing. I mean, there are many police officers who are very respectful, who are very supportive of other people's rights, that they be vocal on trying to rein in their good practices within the service.
All right, Victor, yes. Do we have like an end? Will there be an end, a day when we sit back and say there is no more violation of human rights, or the normal mwananchi can actually go and report to a policeman?
Okay, in an ideal situation, that is what everybody would expect. But the human nature is, we always have challenges in terms of how we relate with each other. Well, we cannot really eradicate that, but what we can have is we can have a reduction of these kind of scenarios. So I believe the best thing is to work towards reducing these violations, ensure that the people who are supposed to maintain law and order are well trained, they uphold the law. There is sufficient legislation. In fact, if you look at the National Police Service Act, it provides that if somebody is found guilty of torture, they can go in for up to 25 years. If it's the issue of cruel and degrading treatment, they can go in for up to 15 years. So there is sufficient legislation on how to deal with this kind of issues. But you see, the law does not work in a vacuum. There must be people who are willing to abide by the law. So the challenge is enforcement, or observing the law. It's not that there is not sufficient legislation. It's the people who are supposed to uphold the law that have challenges in terms of human weakness or unwillingness to abide by the law. So it's important that there is sufficient training to the people who are supposed to maintain law and order. And also for the citizens, they are supposed to know their rights, how they are supposed to interact with the police. You have seen in recent times that people have become so repulsive of the police. We have even had incidents where people are attacking police, which is something that is very unfortunate. whereby you see members of the public beating up police officers. I don't think that is the way we are supposed to go. The police officers are supposed to uphold the law, and also members of the public are supposed to do their bit. And when there is that collaboration, there is that teamwork, then of course that can go a long way in terms of reducing these violations, reducing crime, and that way we can move forward.
All right, Jacob, let's talk about the role of we now as citizens in fostering a better relationship between us and the men and the women in uniform.
My view is that I think the most sustainable way of trying to bridge these challenges we're raising is to raise awareness amongst us citizens, one, on our rights, and also to be vocal on when these rights are violated. Because I think the agencies that have been put in place to try and curb these challenges, like the IPOA and the internal organ within the police service, also require information. So when these violations are done, we are meted against people and people are not able to say them or bring them out, then that becomes a challenge. So for us citizens, I think it's important to, and especially organizations around human rights organizations working among communities, to sensitize communities on their rights, sensitize communities on the on the process, of the judicial process. Like when I'm arrested, what do I need to do? What am I entitled to? Such that when I go there, of course, most of the time it's a bit dramatic and you may not be able to say it, but I believe that when it's constantly ingrained in the public, the general public, that all of us, when you see a police officer, there is something you know about what you need to do when you're arrested. That I think will go a long way in helping, so that we don't have a public that is ignorant of their rights, a public that is, when you see a police officer, is just, the default setting is flight. You know, and you're able to engage more, and also ask that that the police service also should be proactive in trying to bridge the gap that continually grows between them and the public, doing joint activities, doing CSR activities. You know, just trying to show that not every police officer is a criminal. You know, not the police service as an entity is not evil. It's not inherently evil. And to try and change that image, and then maybe that could help in encouraging the public to be more responsive to these challenges in a meaningful way.
All right. And now, what is our responsibility from a law perspective, Victor, towards law and order and towards achieving it the same?
Okay, everybody has a chief responsibility. Everybody, including members of the public, as humans, we are supposed to conduct ourselves responsibly. So the laws that are there, we are supposed to observe them as members of the public. The police officers also need to observe the laws. So what is important is for everybody to do his or her part. We also need to respect the police. They do a very good job in maintaining law and order and also the security within our borders. So in as much as some of the members of the police service involve themselves in undesirable conduct, we also have to appreciate those who work tirelessly to maintain law and order. So it's also unfortunate that those police officers who really work hard are targeted by criminals, like that officer who was killed. The kind of reaction that we got from the police in that kind of incident is not the most desirable of things, but also it's also important for members of the public. When these kind of incidents happen, we share this information with the relevant agencies. But that one is based on the trust and confidence, because you do not want a situation whereby you share information and then you become a target. So there needs to be confidence and trust building between members of the public, members of the police service, so that everybody lives in a peaceful and harmonious society.
All right, let's get the parting shots from you, from Muhuri as an NGO, and then we'll get one from you from a law perspective.
Okay. So I think my parting shot would be what is happening in Lamu is tragic. It's unfortunate. Those stories are graphic. When you hear them, they're traumatizing. what those people have been subjected to is disturbing. And it's not just in Lamu. Even other parts of the country, that these cases that of police brutality that are very appalling, and it's unfortunate, and they must be condemned. Those who are responsible must be, those who do these things, who are perpetrating these criminal activities, must be held to account. And we call on the leadership of the National Police Service, the DPP and the DCI, and the Minister of Interior, by his own proclamation on his Lamu, he said that this will be a thing of the past. And we would like to see these officers who have gone around villages brutalizing people to know their service numbers, and for them to take personal responsibility if they commit criminal activities. And it's only that is only through that kind of action that then the public can feel protected by government. They can feel protected by the law. And then this idea of community policing, and this working closely with the police to safeguard our societies then can be realized. But what happened there, it's tragic and unfortunate.
Okay, Victor.
Yeah, on my part, what I can see is that the people who committed that heinous crime of killing the police officer, they need to be brought to book. But the methodology is what needs to be changed. You cannot eradicate these kind of things by, committing crimes yourselves. So what needs to be done is the people who committed the crime, if they are known, let them be held to account, let them be taken through the full force of the law. And on the part of the police, they might be feeling that anger, but it's not the right way to go and brutalize other members of the public who have nothing to do with the offense. So it's important that everybody upholds the law, and if we are able to uphold the law, and the people who are supposed to maintain law and order are behaving in a civil manner, then that way the flow of information is going to go a long way in reducing crimes. So the best thing that would happen is with the last visit to Lamu by the Interior CS, the DPP, the DCI, to give assurance to the people there, they should not let the people go back to where they were before that particular visit. They are supposed to ensure that what they promised those people there is is carried forward, and those people feel that their rights are not going to continuously be violated. And of course, there has been this feeling that people in the coastal region are marginalized. So when the state actors, these police officers, go and rain down on the members of the public, then it creates more resentment. So there's need to come up with a way forward in terms of collaboration, building confidence and trust between the police and the members of the public, and that way the criminal levels are going to go down.
All right, and that way criminal levels will go down. That is the thought of Victor right there, and that brings us to the end of today's show. Now, credits to the whole team that made the show possible today, from the technical team in the studio with me, Binyaman, Faizan, Binyaman, and my producer of the day, Saida Aboud, and her assistant, Amina, and myself, Yusuf Farah. I leave you with this. There is a lot that needs to be done as far as the relationship between the men and women in uniform is concerned in our country. And I, for once, look forward to the day that I look to a policeman without fear and know that I am safe. We can fix this a day at a time. Ma'as-salam.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Papa,